darkest life under the big top world. We all need the clowns to make us smile. Through space and time, always another show. Wondering where I am, lost without you. And being apart ain't easy on this love affair. Two strangers learn to fall in love again. I get the joy of rediscovering you. Oh girl, you stand by me. I'm forever yours, faithfully. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter from deep in the bowels of our underground lair. We're just like a axe-wielding madman in a New York McDonald's. We don't care. How you doing?
You know, I just saw a video of that now that in our underground layer, we have a secret cable that we can see things on. I had not seen that.
Yeah, that's something, huh?
Guile's out on bail already. You know, I'll tell you what.
Why not?
There's certain places you commit crimes, just you get a or something like that.
That's a good idea. Never thought about that.
Yeah.
You just kind of staple it to the whatever you hand them when they get out of jail. Their walking papers.
Yeah, hand them their whatever back, their wallet and all that stuff.
Yeah.
By the way, I think I know the song.
Yeah, that's good.
I think it is Journey.
Yes.
Aha!
Faithfully by Journey.
Once again, one in a row.
Yeah.
Maybe the 30th or 40th overall in
maybe
5.5 years.
Yeah.
I'm climbing up there. The axe-wielding nutcase. I'll tell you what, the surge of crime going on, Jay, I'm just little side note here. I cannot believe that isn't like that in the economy should be the only focus of what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, it should be.
Because to me, all the other issues don't matter that much if the economy sucks and there's a ton of crime. I mean, does it really matter, the other little, I don't want to call them little petty issues because that's not fair. If you don't feel safe and you might lose your job, not a lot compares to that when you're...
I mean, our news channels took, 2 full weeks to talk about the death of the Queen?
Yeah, well...
And put everything else on hold. Meanwhile, economy's still in the crapper. And people are still getting carjacked.
Gas is down to like $3.79 nationwide. That's what the Biden administration put out.
Did you hear why?
Happy days are here again.
Did you hear why?
No, I don't know why.
Oh, you didn't hear why?
Well, I'm guessing because demand is down a tad, and that the strategic oil reserves are now depleted. Coincidentally, that'll be depleted like around the end of the year. Just happens to be after the election.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. So you've got less demand because it's more expensive, so you got fewer people buying it. And then, yes, he's been continuing to deplete our national reserves just for the sake of getting the prices down before the election. What a great guy.
But that's not a strategy to reduce prices. I mean, that's a Band-Aid on...
No, that's a strategy to win an election. Yeah, that's all it is.
You're getting stabbed in the stomach and you're putting 2 Band-Aids on it. I mean, there is no strategy. The strategy is go buy a $100,000 electric car, and then if you're California, you can't plug it in. That's the strategy.
Yeah, that's a good plan. And if there cannot, I take it back because I know that there are people that just will, no matter what, wag their tongue, wag their tail, and go, yes, master. But...
well, very few. I think that's pretty low.
There's got to be enough thinking people out there that are like, wait a second, you want me to buy an electric car, but I can't plug it in.
Well...
there have to be enough.
I think ultimately... The wag and the tail is all the tax incentives. I mean, people keep saying, well, why do automobile makers want to go along with this? Well, because we're paying for it.
Right.
I mean, we're giving them the money to make these cars nobody wants. Okay, so I mean, there's that. I mean, here's the other part. If climate change is so bad, it's so horrible, why do all these changes? Why are they all implemented by like 2050 or 2060? I mean, why is that? Always, the goal is always 20 or 30 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
If it's that bad, okay, that we're all going to die, we're going to fry to death, we're all going to, this is back to the depleting ozone layer or whatever
Yeah.
BS we heard back in the 90s. Why are the goals always 30 years from now?
Well, I don't know, and why
We know they won't be met, and we know there'll be no accountability when they're not.
why does Obama have a multi-million dollar mansion on Martha's Vineyard right on the ocean if the ocean levels are going to rise? Why is he staying there kicking migrants out to the to the rest of Massachusetts if he's so worried about
Well, we know why he
going
has
underwater?
We know why he has one, because he's an elitist now and he's part of the club.
He doesn't think it's going to flood enough to ruin it.
Well,
That's why.
maybe he'll be dead by the time the glaciers melt. Up in Hudson Bay or wherever they are. I don't know where these glaciers are that are melting.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably why. But I got it, Jay. I off the subject here. I
Yeah.
got to say something. I watched something. My wife and I watched something last weekend. It got me thinking.
Yes.
We watched 2 hour. You remember the Mary Kay LeTourneau case?
Vaguely.
Okay, the teacher who slept with her student and had kids.
Yes.
Now you may know who her dad was.
No, John LeTourneau?
John Schmitz, who
Or John-
ran for
okay.
president back in the 1972.
I had the first name right.
Yeah.
Huh.
Interesting family history, but and it got me to thinking. Okay, why is it? And this, look, there's no nice way for my male chauvinism to not come out. We all talk about equal justice under the law. We all know that that's bull. That's not what is meant by people who preach equity.
Right.
Okay, they want favoritism to certain people.
Yes.
Why is it that what makes, and by the way, she passed away recently.
Oh, I did not
Only
hear
58 years old, but yes,
Wow.
passed away recently. What makes her, why are women who commit crimes often sympathetic figures? Why is it that, I think of like Andrea Yates. I think, why is it that, they blame the husband, the media will blame the husband. That's the first thing the media will try to do. But why is it that women criminals often bring the awe from a certain segment of the population and from our mainstream media? Now, let me, if you don't remember the case, or maybe, look, it was like 1998, so we're going, if you're younger, maybe you don't remember, but she had a husband and like 3 kids or something, and slept with a student who was like 13, got pregnant, got caught, got let out on probation, slept with the student again, got pregnant again, served time in jail, and then married this guy later.
Wow.
So she literally married this guy married his abuser. Okay. Now, the reason I say this is that I want you to think for a minute, reverse the genders here.
Yeah.
If she identified as a man, no. Picture a scenario in which a 35-year-old man impregnates a 13-year-old girl,
Yeah.
gets out on probation. The media goes out and blames his wife. Okay? Now, stick with me on this, because this is part of what happened. This lady's husband got trashed, got accused of a bunch. I don't know whether it's true or not.
Yeah.
Whether it is or it isn't, it's not relevant to what she did. And then gets out, gets probation somehow, gets out, impregnates her again. Then Mary Kay LeTourneau serves 7 years. Okay.
Yes.
So he serves only 7 years after that, and then marries the girl. Now, envision the Gloria Steinems of the world, or the Kim Gandhis, or the people like that. What would have happened to that guy? There'd be no sympathy for that guy whatsoever. There'd be no abuse excuse. There'd be nothing. He could even claim he was gay and get sympathy.
I'm going to disagree.
Really?
Yeah. I am going to disagree with you. Now, I think historically that's true. I think historically, you take it back into the time when this actually happened. Absolutely, you're right. But there has been such a push from the left to normalize pedophilia. And you know what I mean? It's not pedophilia. It's minor attracted persons. And this guy, he just, that happens to be, how he's wired. And he might need some counseling, or he might, what I mean? That today is how that would go.
I'm not sure the majority
Gloria
of people
Steinem
would feel
carries
that way.
no weight today.
Yeah.
No weight.
And look, by the way, the guy should be strung up if that happened.
Right.
But
I would agree.
Again, if my point is, if we're going to have equality, which women should have, by the way, I have no problem with everybody being treated equally under the law. It shouldn't matter what gender somebody is. Mary Kay LeTourneau was a pedophile. She was a predator.
Right.
She was in a position of authority and abused it. Whether she thought it was love, whether she married this guy 15 years later, isn't relevant. A 13-year-old cannot form the capacity to make adult decisions. So
right.
That, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with you there, but it would surprise me if there was a part of the but how about like the Andrea Yates case? I mean, to me, you can't find a more perfect case for first degree premeditated murder.
Right.
There's nothing you can say to me. I don't care if she had borderline personality disorder or, hemorrhoids or whatever. I don't care. She systematically premeditated to murder her 5 kids one by one.
Yes.
And her husband was blamed. Her doctor was blamed. And it's like, wait a second. Now, you're going to tell me that if a father came home and did that, there'd be any sympathy for him at all?
Oh, no.
Okay, so again...
Although Alvin Bragg would probably let him out.
Good point. Okay, maybe. Among others.
Yes.
But the whole... But yet even her there's this crowd that feels bad for her. Oh, her husband worked too much and the system failed and all this crap. And I'm thinking, what the... And I'll tell you what that was. I don't remember what year that was. I want to say it was like 2000, 2001, 2002, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So, I mean... But again, another premeditated murderer, and there's sympathy there.
Yeah.
And I am bewildered by it. And I just watching that case, watching this 2-hour special on LeTourneau that my wife and I watched, the sympathy's still out there.
Yeah.
She's not really a predator. She's not really, she only did it to one student. Oh, I'm sorry. One student is one too many.
Yeah. 1997 was when she pled guilty.
Okay. But I think she was caught again like a year later after being let out or something. I don't know, but it was just just disturbing.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise. She lived in California and died in Washington.
She was in Washington at the time that this happened.
Okay.
Yeah. And I want to say Yates was in Texas.
Okay.
I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, looks like there were a couple of daughters.
Do you remember the Susan Smith case?
Oh, goodness. That sounds familiar.
She let the car go down in the lake with her kids in it.
Oh, yes. Okay.
There was sympathy for her.
Oh.
Blaming the husband. She blamed her boyfriend. She was depressed. I mean, it's just like, come on. But I can't imagine. We've had cases like Chris Watts, fathers killing their own kids.
Yeah.
And it's string them up, hang them up,
Yeah.
blow their head off. And I'm fine with that. But again, it should be the same no matter what. It shouldn't matter whether the man or the woman. Maybe some people have trouble coming to see women that way or they just don't want to believe it. I don't know. But I was disturbed by the amount of, they called a few people on this Mary Kay LeTourneau special called her relationship with this kid, quote, a love story. And I'm like, it's anything but. It's the most perverted thing you could possibly do.
Right.
So you just, oh, God, gross, sick, barf. Just, I think I'm scarred for life now, Jay.
Yeah, that's what you get for watching that. I'll tell you.
Well, my wife and I were kind of, I've always been a courtroom detective kind of show.
Yeah.
Watch the ID channel. That's what's great.
Yeah, I've never watched that. Is that a thing? It's
never
not,
mind.
okay.
Never mind. I mean, you don't even watch Lifetime movies.
No, I don't.
Well, one of these days you got to turn off Ellen and The View and start watching some real stuff.
Yeah. I don't watch Ellen or The View.
Oh,
Thank
you do
very
too.
much.
I came in here the other day and you were. You tried to change the channel super quick, thinking I wouldn't have noticed, but you were watching.
Whatever.
You were watching YouTube.
When have you ever came in my house and not seen the news on?
Oh, this was just the other day. Don't lie to the public.
My goodness.
Yeah.
I'm always at work. That's all I do. I'm a workhorse, Andrew.
Yeah. Well, no comment on that. Jay,
Yeah.
once again, it is election season, unfortunately for all of us. You'd think I would live for this stuff, but quite frankly, nothing more than elections get me to turn off YouTube and turn off the television about as quickly as... And now politicians have invaded like Flixnet.
Really?
And Hulu and all that stuff. Yeah, you can't.
Stupid commercials.
Well, what?
Oh.
There's stuff at the beginning and sometimes in the middle. Like, I have never seen the show Lost.
Yeah.
And my wife and I she has a couple of the seasons, but we had to watch seasons 1 and 2 on one of those. I don't recall what it was.
Okay.
And yeah, they have the ads, and now we're getting ads, political ads.
Oh, that's great.
In those. YouTube, same thing. I'm a YouTuber because some podcasts I listen to and stuff are on YouTube instead of trying to find it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning, and you can't click out of them. You have to.
Yeah.
They paid big money to not be able to click out of those ads. So
Yeah.
I got to listen to.
Speaking of which, I mean, we had talked about before how there was just really nothing going on at the governor level. Scott Jensen finally came out with some ads. There was one where he's holding a baby. How effective do you think that was? Do you remember that one?
Yeah, not very, because I think Jensen's position on abortion has clearly evolved, and I think addressing it in an ad is probably not the way I would have gone. I would have stuck with crime. I would have stuck with education.
Yeah, well, he kind of went there.
He did, but
he went.
Again,
Walls is weaponizing the issue. The Minnesota Constitution says this.
Okay,
I
but
can't do anything about it. Instead, I want to take care of these things over here.
Again, I think I don't know. I didn't think it would. I would have changed some things.
Yeah.
In it. That's just me. Always a resident second guesser. I mean, I just feel like if Jensen is on point, if Jensen is hammering a couple things, to me, the abortion thing, he's on the defensive. He's clearly changed a little bit. He's failed to expose that Walls is just as extreme. Majority of Minnesotans don't favor abortion until birth either.
Right.
And they failed in that regard to put him on the defensive.
Mm-hmm.
I had suggested months ago that the way to do this is to promote having less abortion and incrementally doing that rather than the rigid position. Again, I'm not passionate on that issue, so maybe I'm different from other people, but Jensen could have endorsed a compromise or something like that and should have put a shoehorn in Matt Burke's mouth, and he's partly let this define him.
Yeah.
And that's part of his problem. But again, to me, look at the Walz failed ads, and they're way better.
Yeah.
The burning pictures of Minneapolis, people have to be reminded of that.
Yep.
The closed doors during the pandemic, the schools being out, the school performance, and how MDE has come out with statistics about how bad it's been. Those are things missing from Jensen's ads. They need to be there. So while he might have said a lot of the right things, TV ads are all about imagery.
Yeah.
And that's more powerful than words in today's society.
Agreed.
So what did you think of it? I mean,
I thought that, I don't know, I agree with you. You don't ever want to be on the defensive, but it's kind of like, okay, I addressed it. Now, here's what I'm about. I thought it was okay. I thought it was better than a lot of the ads I've seen in the previous years running for governor. You know what I mean? Like, he actually kind of took a swing at Walz, saying that he's weaponizing certain issues, and then
true.
Yeah. So, I mean, I liked it better.
I would have used distracting rather than weaponizing.
Yeah.
The governor doesn't want to talk about, Walz doesn't mention crime. He doesn't mention education scores.
Yeah.
He doesn't do it for a reason. But I don't know. You got 30 seconds. You can't say 500
everything.
things.
Yeah.
But
it's like, we say with, you can't put everything on a mailer.
Yeah.
Or a lit piece.
You do, it ends up in the garbage.
Yeah. So you can't put everything into an ad either.
Well, I mean, look, I think that one of the problems with Jensen is the timing of this. He got pounded on television for a couple of months and did nothing.
Yeah.
And that's hurt him a lot, I think. I mean, part of that's fair, part of it's not, but it's all the more why he has to be more powerful now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think he's behind, but I think this race is much closer. Trafalgar came out with a poll today that showed a 3-point lead for Walz. There was one last week that showed it 48-41. I'll tell you what, though, it's not that big of a reason to celebrate for Jensen, because in every poll he's in the low 40s, and he can't win with that.
Right.
He doesn't have to get to 50.
Oh, no.
But he has to get to 46, 47, 48. The Tim Pawlenty numbers.
Yeah. He
has to get there. He can't win. So I'm sort of ho-hum on it.
Yeah.
I think I think his bottom already happened.
Yeah.
But whether there's enough time to make up for it, I have no idea.
We don't know if Walz's bottom has happened yet.
Maybe not. But Walz is hiding and letting his surrogates do things.
Just like every other Democrat around the nation, it seems. That's their tactic.
And I also think that Jensen has failed to link Walz to Biden and Ilhan Omar and other people that are less popular. The way, say, President Bush was when Iraq was going bad, was kind of linked to everybody. I mean, I think the Republican Party has failed at doing that. No surprise. But I think they have failed at making the president's policies and the chaos in this nation go down the ballot on everyone. So, like I've said, you don't control that narrative, and the narrative gets away from you. But maybe the Republican Party of Minnesota, instead of looking into voting machines, should actually, and wild, ridiculous Kim Crockett garbage, should actually get out the vote. And like I've said before, it doesn't matter if Kim Crockett's right. It's not about being right. It doesn't matter if you lose. So there's...
Well, we'll see. I've heard some of the behind the scenes baseball stuff, and I'm hoping that things are going to turn out a little bit differently.
We'll see. I think Jim Schultz is in a good spot.
Yeah.
State auditor, I don't know if that matters that much. I think people just vote down the party line. I think that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because 90% of Minnesotans can't name the auditor. I think Attorney General is a little more high profile.
Right.
So I just, I don't know. I think Schultz has a good chance.
Yeah. And how Keith Ellison wins in outstate Minnesota.
Well, that Trafalgar poll shows Schultz in the lead, by the way, and they've been about as good a pollsters. I mean, they get criticized for being Republican pollsters.
Yeah.
But go look at 2016 and 2020. You show me a more accurate pollster than them.
Yeah, absolutely.
There isn't one. Go back to 2016, what they predicted on President Trump, and they were almost down the line right.
Right.
I think they got like one state wrong. So say what you want about them. One of the things I remember, and I know we're going way out here, but one of the things I remember in Pennsylvania, one of the things that the head of Trafalgar, I can't remember his name.
Robert.
He was on with somebody, and what he said was that what pollsters are missing and continue to miss are new registered voters. They're not being polled.
Right.
And in a state like Pennsylvania, Republicans have, since like Obama's second term, they have outdone Democrats like 3-2 in because there you have to register their party name.
Yeah.
They have really outdone Democrats in that state, and those new voters aren't being polled. They're doing the traditional polling the way you did it in the 90s.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing still with a lot of the newer type. Scott Rasmussen does a good job of kind of mixing the two, but a lot of the, USA Today, Reuters people are, they're calling grandma and asking, call whoever's home.
Right.
So
well, and that's the thing. I mean, a lot of Republicans reportedly aren't answering questions for pollsters either.
That happened under President Trump a lot too.
Yeah, they're afraid of retribution.
You knew there was a hidden vote out there for him.
Right.
And what strikes me weird too about a lot of the governor polls here in Minnesota is the high amount of undecided. I mean, I am shocked that is in mid double digits in some polls still. 15% in some polls still undecided.
Yeah.
1 out of 6 voters are still undecided. I mean, my guess is that Walz doesn't get most of that. I mean,
right.
If you ask your wife if you're going to be married in 2 years and she says she's undecided, that's not good. Okay,
right.
So I have to guess that vote probably goes against. Whether Jensen gets it all is something different. But
I mean, some of it can go Walz's way, but like if you haven't already decided after having him for 4 years that he's your guy, there's a good chance you're looking for a reason to vote for somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You don't want to vote for him, but you don't necessarily want to vote the other guy either. It's probably, like I said, third party people might pick off some of that too. So
right.
I don't know. So anyway, speaking of partisanship, speaking of this crap, Jay, we've talked over the years about partisanship. Maybe that's not the right word. Parties endorsing local candidates.
Yes.
Whether that's city council, school board, county. We've seen sheriffs, county attorneys being endorsed as well. And I think it's getting really bad in most of the state.
Yeah.
If you go to people's websites and so on, it's just littered with endorsements.
Yeah.
Not about what you're for or anything like that. It's just, I'm endorsed by the local AFL-CIO,
right,
or something like that. And the danger of that, the sort of the I define partisanship and principles differently. Partisanship, and you and I have said this, is when, the Senate Majority Leader comes to you and says, yeah, you're voting this way and you're voting this way.
Yeah.
Or we're going to take away this or not support your election, or you're going to vote for the team, regardless of what you think. We don't care what you think about it.
Yes.
Okay. That's partisanship. Team blue, team red, team whatever. Having a set of principles is not partisan.
No.
Okay. So when a local candidate, Jay, and let me just throw this out to you, talks on and on and on and on about how they're endorsed by the local political party and says very little about anything else. Now, to me, that's an indicator of I'm here to push an ideology. I'm here to push an agenda. I'm here to maybe advance myself.
Could be. Could also be like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know what I stand for, but hey, these guys will back me, so
Yeah,
I'll ride their coattails.
Ross Perot used to say, follow the money. You need to follow the money. So, I mean, but what do you make of the increase, if you will? We see this all over, whether that's, I think it's particularly dangerous in sheriff races. I mean, your job as a sheriff is pretty straightforward. It really is not about liberal or conservative. Yeah. Same thing with a county attorney. Your job is fairly straightforward. You prosecute criminals that you don't make the law. You don't pick what laws you're going to enforce. You don't.
Well, that's the job description. That's not how it's being exercised today.
Yeah. But I mean, do you think a lot of people are aware of that? I mean, do you think that do you think the average person knows that the person prosecuting in a county is elected by the people? Yeah, it's on the ballot, but
yeah, people don't really understand those, I don't think. There's a lot of confusion around elections for judges, county attorneys, soil water conservation managers. Sheriffs are maybe a little less confusing, but
depends
at the same time...
Depends on where you live, too, because in outstate Minnesota, where you might not have a local police force...
Right, you rely more on the sheriff.
Yeah, people are much more aware of the county role there. But I think locally, here in the Twin Cities, where you have your local police department... You may not be as in tune to I know I wasn't until I started getting involved.
Right.
And I couldn't tell you who I voted for back in 1998. I have no idea. I mean, and I voted that year because that was the year Jesse Ventura ran. I voted. Remember, I voted for Jesse Ventura and Jim Ramstad. That's what I remember because I was living in Plymouth.
Huh, that's better memory than me.
Yeah, I don't remember anything else on the ballot.
I know I voted for Jesse. That's all I remember.
And I'm trying to think who my state. I have no idea who it was. Bugs Bunny. I don't know who the hell it was. Mickey Mouse. I don't know. I don't know who was where. But do you think about it? County attorney, sheriff races would have been up that year in the non-presidential year. So you would have had those races. So I don't know. But the idea that a party is going to endorse a sheriff, and I don't care which way you swing, how much, Jay, on a scale of 1 to 10, does that bother you?
Well, a lot.
Yeah.
I think that we don't do enough to understand what these roles are, who the people are behind them, what the issues are. And because of that, we just kind of pick the name that we know. Yeah,
can I use Rich Stanek as a good example? And I've met him, and I'm not his biggest fan, but I don't have any anger toward him or anything like that. But I can remember meeting him back in the day, and when I considered myself more of a Republican, and he was, going around telling everybody he was a Republican and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just kind of like, okay, great. But what is that? You're a sheriff. Okay. I mean, that's, your job is not to push legislation. What does that mean to, now I didn't know at the time that he had higher political ambitions. I didn't know that he was a former state legislator, and was he more of a politician or was he more of a cop? And that is always a problem for me in a position like that.
Right.
I want a sheriff. The best sheriff is the one I don't know. They do their job and they don't seek the limelight, and they I realize it's an elected position, so you kind of can't hide all the time.
Yeah.
But that is does their job, and they're not controversial. They're not constantly in the news. I don't have to see their face all the time. To me, that's the great sheriff.
Yeah. You didn't care for Mall Cop, I take it?
Are you talking about Hutchinson, or are you talking about Doug Heffernan? No, I did not care for the Mall Cop.
Yeah.
But there's another example of a guy who, how did he win? DFL endorsed. That was the only thing he would say.
Yeah.
He's basically, what was he, like a transit part-time?
Yeah. Part-time transit cop, yeah.
I mean, he wasn't a police officer.
Yeah, well, I mean, some of those buses,
they can.
kinda
I mean,
tough,
I don't think
but-
Hutchinson ran down too many criminals. I mean, it's just me. But he probably called somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
But again, I get back to the job of a sheriff is to go catch criminals. It's,
Yeah.
who's going to be the best, most efficient, cost-effective. Obviously, there's issues to discuss within particular areas, depending on, crime might be different in part A than it is in place B, but it shouldn't be a liberal versus conservative thing. Why has
No.
it become that?
I don't know, and it has been. There are some issues where both the liberal and conservative sheriffs get it wrong,
Yeah.
like civil asset forfeiture. They just keep taking and taking and taking. Doesn't seem to matter what their philosophy is. But when it comes to having to arrest and detain and chase down criminals, and there really shouldn't be a liberal versus a conservative position on that.
Well, and also, like they take positions on like gun issues, and it's like, sorry, you don't make the law here.
Right.
You enforce the law.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what your opinion is on the Second Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll tell you one thing. Remember when conceal and, I don't think it's this way anymore. Conceal and carry was up to sheriffs.
Yeah.
They had discretion over who. I don't think it's that way anymore.
No, it's
It used to be
yeah.
that you lived, they had final say on who could have conceal and carry permits.
Right. Now, I mean, they technically do, and I forget the term that they use for it. But basically, if you go through the training, you pass the test, unless there is a blatant reason why somebody should not have a permit, they need to issue it.
Yeah.
Shall issue. That's what
Yeah.
it's called. Minnesota is a shall issue state, and so you shall issue the permit unless there's some glaring reason why you shouldn't.
But what's the glaring reason? I mean, is that...
Well, somebody missed a felony somewhere, or
Well, then they shouldn't have been allowed to sign up for the class.
right.
I don't have a
Well,
back-
I mean, that's all done by private companies, though.
Oh,
too. Like,
okay.
That's people often operating like out of a gun store or something like that. So
Okay. See, and I still have an issue with that because of this whole mental illness stuff,
Right.
Because, I mean, look, I'm on the record saying that I don't think all mental illnesses are real.
right.
And I'm also on the record saying if a person's mentally ill, if a person's depressed, okay,
Yeah.
even though I don't really believe that exists clinically, you don't take away their First Amendment rights, their Fifth Amendment rights, their Eighth Amendment rights. Why are there Second Amendment rights on the chopping block?
Right.
Just because you're depressed doesn't mean you don't have doesn't mean you can't defend yourself. So it's just kind of the discretion is, I don't know. But anyhow, back to what I was saying before. The idea that a sheriff's race is going to be the national trend. Oh, it's a Democratic year, it's a Republican year. And that affects a sheriff's race is really disturbing.
Right. Now, I don't know with sheriffs to the degree that it happens, but the problem is you've got dark money coming in from guys like George Soros, that infiltrate the county attorney races and the district attorney
And
races.
not to mention thousands of people with dark money that we don't know their names.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, you've got all of this from people on the far left that is coming in to try and destroy the fabric of American government.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Is because I've come to support certain types of campaign finance reform. Is not allowing, how would you prevent that money from coming into a campaign? Because like here in Minnesota, I think it's the law. Jay, you might know it. Correct me if I'm wrong. You can accept a donation from anybody who lives in the United States.
Yeah, I think.
Is that true?
I think so, pretty much.
Somebody in Georgia can send you a check for $500.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when there's a county attorney's race and 95% of the money is coming from out of Minnesota,
Yeah.
okay, that sounds warning bells to me.
Uh-huh.
Now, I wrestle with this all the time because I believe in the First Amendment and the right to petition government. But is it right? Is it okay with me as a citizen of Minnesota? And I'm not saying there is anybody running that's doing this. There probably is. Is getting all this money from people who don't live here. The people who don't live here are trying to influence an election here.
Right.
So how do I reconcile those two things? Because I believe in the right to petition government. At the same time,
Yep.
I don't think it's fair that in Hennepin County, and I don't know that this is happening, but my guess is that it is, outstate money is flooding.
Well, we know it is. Look at last year with in Minneapolis, they had that vote to get rid of the police department and
Right.
change the city
Yeah.
charter. 90+% of that money came from out of state. So we know it happens.
But now is that right?
No, it's not right. When you have billionaires or whatever, in California, in New York, that are sending money to Minnesota to change the laws in Minnesota, the states are supposed to be the laboratory of democracy, right? And when you have other states that are influencing that, how can they be? You're just trying to make them all homogeneous. All of them should look the same. They should all have the same laws. We can't have any difference.
Back to the cookie cutter stuff.
Why can't there be difference? Why can't there be a reason why I might want to live in North Dakota but not live in New York? Why can't there be a difference?
I'm guessing there's many reasons. No, but how do you get that money out without destroying the principles behind the First Amendment? How could Minnesota pass a law saying no one outside the state of Minnesota can contribute to a campaign? But see, then they go to the side groups.
Right.
They'll
set up a chapter in the state.
They'll set up a holding company or some sort of phony thing to do it. I want to make it harder for people to be bought. Okay,
Yeah.
That's what I want. You want to run and you tell me you're dedicated to Hennepin County and you've lived here your whole life and blah blah blah. Well, then prove it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know. But the county attorneys ones, which we talked about on a real recent episode, is really disturbing because we all know the agenda of letting out criminals or not prosecuting minorities or not enforcing our border laws, or you have a lady running here in Hennepin County that's a defense attorney.
Right.
And that really concerns me because the prosecutor has to be cold-blooded.
Yes.
They got to go after they can't be passionate. They have to go after whoever commits crimes, not decide what laws or people they're going to prosecute.
Right.
So-
You can't be choosy. It's not your job to be choosy, to pick and choose what laws.
Well, that's a defense attorney's
care
job.
about, right.
They take on clients who feed their passion.
Yeah.
But you look at this Moriarty lady, and all over her front page is DFL endorsed. DFL endorsed. The only thing that's talked about on her front page. That's the whole premise of her campaign is that she's a DFL hack.
Right.
Okay, so that tells me that pushing democratic policies and democratic ideals is going to be the forefront of her, I'll call it reign, as county attorney.
And that might actually work, unfortunately, in Hennepin County because you've got Minneapolis, and unless you have DFL after your name, you're not going to win a city election.
Well, it doesn't say DFL on the ballot, which is also sort of...
Right.
Now, what do you think about that? That's sort of deceiving.
Because it's county.
Yeah.
They can do that.
The thing is, I don't want D and R on the ballot on these local races.
No.
At the same time, it's deceptive when they call themselves nonpartisan and then run as from one party or another. That's a lie.
Yep. It absolutely is. And I just think that, I don't know. I mean, obviously the parties give them money. They give them lists of voters and supporters.
Maybe.
Volunteers, So, I mean, there are good things that come out of being affiliated with a party that oftentimes as a local candidate you can't get otherwise. So I understand that part of it. And I think it's okay to have a loose association with a party to say, hey, I identify as this. My set of beliefs align best with yours. Hey, can I get some lists? Can I get $100? It's.
But what about your approach to the voters? I mean, do you think local candidates should be trying to ideologically identify outwardly?
No, I don't think they should. Well, it's a double-edged sword, though, too. You don't want people getting swayed by party. You want them to take time to look up their positions and learn about the candidates, especially at the local level. And there are so many issues that really aren't partisan. At the same time,
okay, but let me just interrupt you for a second.
Yeah,
you got a city that I won't use Crystal as our example, but pick Golden Valley. To do is laid out. It's not a mystery.
right.
You got people running for office there, and I'll pick on them because they're not running this year, who openly say nothing about the city charter.
Yeah,
They probably haven't read it, probably couldn't recite any of it.
right.
And even though they take an oath, and they're all running about their little pet issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about police and fire. It's not, I mean, city council's jobs are not difficult. Their job is public safety.
Yep.
Their job is to watch that budget. Their job is to direct the city administrator. Their job is get the roads plowed and paved.
Yeah.
Keep the parks up nice, and have some recreation or amenities. That's their job. There's nothing else that they should be doing.
Yeah.
Okay? But you go to some of these city council pages, and there's nothing about any of that.
Right.
It's all about LGQTMNNOP. It's all about bullying. It's all about pushing transit or getting you to ride your bike or peeing in the street or,
That's
not cutting trees
peeing
down.
in the
Yeah,
street.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I think
Just
it's
to be clear.
I think it's called whip it out and go. I mean, I'm sitting there going, and I read you get more and more and more of them. There's more now than there ever have been.
Yeah.
I mean, and so it's almost like, okay, how do we go back to people running for office? Look, it's not the job of a city council person to, remake the city into some different city that they isn't there right now.
Right.
Okay, so how does that change? I mean, why do we have this rash of candidates who think that climate change is the biggest issue facing the city of Robbinsdale?
Well, because that's what Democrats believe.
Okay, so in other words, they're running to push their ideology.
Right, not the rank and file, but the political
elitists.
class. Yes.
I would say it's the same on the Republican side, too.
Yes, I would, too.
The elites, I think, are no different.
No.
So, but, we see it in our schools.
Yeah.
Candidates running, what do they talk about? They talk nothing about a better education or anything like that, or kids getting the skill sets they need. No, it's all about bullying, anti-racism, LGBNOP, QRS, TUV. It's all about pushing this personal agenda. So how in the world do you get this? How do we get here, and how do we get out of it?
Oh boy, how did we get here? Well, obviously, I mean, look at outer state Minnesota, and this was the other point I was going to make. When you look at greater Minnesota, the reason that Democrats rule most of the state is because they have kept away from making it political. They've been able to get majorities on city councils in places like Hutchinson and Roseau because they don't identify. They use it to their advantage when it's advantageous to them, and they know enough not to when it's not advantageous to them. This is something that they've just,
they're situationally doing it.
Outsmarted the Republicans? I don't know. To some effect they have, because Republicans still could care less about local races. They still think all you got to do is run somebody for governor every 4 years.
You'd think after losing that race time after time after time, they'd change strategies. But Republicans are like baseball analytics guys. They just stick to their script.
Yeah.
But you're right. There is some places where the agenda's hidden, and I don't know. I mean, how much of that is good or bad too? You have somebody who says they're running on, I just want to keep the parks clean and I want to keep the blah blah blah.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they get in office and whoa.
Yeah.
Now it's
keeping the parks clean means cutting down on emissions.
Yeah.
You got to have walking and
all of a sudden a total new agenda is being pushed. So sometimes being a little more outward is informing the voter as well. I will say this though too: the amount of outside money getting into local races, particularly city races, is also a concern. The unions doing this. I know we've talked about the Federation of Labor and the AFL-CIO.
Yeah.
Women Winning, which is another pro-abortion group that has put money into local races. Mm-hmm. I mean, there is dark money to be had in the smallest races.
Right.
A ward in Hopkins has got dark money in it.
Yeah, it does, and then they just turn around and they blame the Republicans for their dark money. And you can't get a PAC in this state to give money to a local candidate if they were buying a hamburger.
Yeah.
It's...
Well, you got a point there. Maybe a pickle on the side.
Yeah.
That's about all. But I mean, also, and I will say something too. A set of principles is different, like I said before. Principles are different than partisanship.
Right.
Governing by principles is one thing. But I got to tell you, I mean, the sheriff's races and attorneys' races are probably where I'm the most worried about partisanship than I even am at the city or even at the county level. I'm more concerned about it in these positions where, because look, you get elected to it's a political position. You get elected to a county or a city, you make ordinances.
Yeah.
It's your job to do that. Okay, partly. The school board, maybe a little less.
Right.
But you still do make policy. Whereas the sheriffs and sheriffs and attorney positions, you're more elected to do a pretty straightforward job.
Right.
And that is just, I don't know, that is extra worrisome.
Well, it's gotten to a point where not so much in the Republican Party, because so many times Republicans will back a principle until it's time to vote on it, and then they let go. Whereas with the Democrat Party, you cannot sway from the party line, and if you sway from the party line, they're coming for you, and you are persona non grata. And
it's that bad.
It's that bad. Well, look what they've done to Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema when they have not agreed. How badly they've drugged them through the mud at the federal level. Look at how, they're so quick to jump on each other. If one of them steps out of line, they don't stay out of line for long.
Yeah, they're. I can't remember who told me, or who I heard talk about what Democrats are like in Washington behind the scenes with the committee assignments and all that. Sometimes they let a few sway because they know they're in trouble and they have to vote a certain way to get reelected. But they're pretty ruthless. Pelosi in particular,
right,
is extremely ruthless.
Absolutely,
at
she is.
Federal level. You got wrinkles like that, you've got to be ruthless. But I'll tell you, it just it's everything people hate about politics. Funny thing was, Jay, in Crystal, I remember when I first got involved, I didn't know anybody there.
Right.
Except Gary Grimes, but Gary was on his way out by the time he might not have even been there anymore. When we really first got going. And then you find out later that everybody's all buddy, part of the same crew.
Right.
And it's kind of like, golly. I mean, how disappointing it was. How I wasn't surprised.
Yeah.
And maybe at that time in my life, I was more surprised than I am now. Because now I'm a cynic about everything, but then I wasn't.
Right.
And it's like, gee whiz.
Well, it's in a lot of respects like professional wrestling. They get in, they argue with each other for a half an hour, and then they go out to dinner afterwards.
It's a choreographed, predetermined. That's in some ways that's true. A predetermined vote.
Pretty cynical, but yeah, and it is, because you've got the work meetings and stuff like that, and they kind of hammer out what they want to do before they ever bring it to a vote. So
as soon as it gets on the agenda, it's going to pass.
Right.
But you also see the going up the ladder politically, and it's always you watch Mike Freiberg and you watch Cedric Frazier and you watch them get on the council, and then they've got their higher ambitions, and those are the folks you really have to watch out for, because they're the people that are putting themselves first.
Yeah.
Even though I understand it to a point. I mean, if you've got higher ambitions, you have higher ambitions. That's some people do, some people don't. It's okay.
It is okay. It's
but
what you do with it.
Yeah, but it's I don't know. That's a issue too that I think is. I don't know how to fix it. I really don't know.
Yeah. Well, it is like I said earlier. On one hand, especially in the urban areas, when they self-identify as Democrats, that's to their advantage. When they don't self-identify as Democrats in greater Minnesota, that's to their advantage. And they've really worked this out. And from the right, we really haven't. I mean, granted, like, for those, in a lot of cases that end up running for local office, that, you get some cheers and some attaboys and stuff like that in a lot of places. In some places you don't. There's still the vast majority of the Republican Party of Minnesota that could give two hoots about local politics, and so it's hard when you don't have that back. The Senate district, the BPOU, to come up with lists, come up with money, come up with people to help, blah, 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 that, you're kind of in a place where, I don't know, you're behind the 8 ball already. The Republican Party does not have the machine that the Democrat Party has in this state.
But you know what? The Democrats haven't always had that either.
True.
That's the thing. I mean, I remember Skip Humphrey getting 30% of the vote. I mean,
yeah.
John Marty getting 35%.
Well,
what's changed? I mean, why have they...
money, I think. A lot of those volunteers aren't volunteers. They get paid. So it's a lot easier to do a lit drop and cover an area when you have people that are making money doing it.
Well, no, that's true. I mean, maybe that has to change. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I just know that it stinks. That's what I know.
Right.
It just stinks because it just feels like no matter what, you're getting garbage.
Yeah. Well, you kind of are. And we've gone through so many things on so many of these shows about why it's not helpful because of the staff in the cities and the counties and the school districts and what they bring to the table because of their experience. And so, you kind of just find that it's an uphill battle. If you have a certain set of principles, it really is an uphill battle for you. And how do we fix that? How do we stand up to people that are so bent on controlling everything? I mean, and that's true. I mean, within the Democrat Party, you have a huge authoritarian streak.
Oh, for sure. Oh, God. No doubt about it.
And I'm not saying there's not one within the Republican Party, because I think there is, to a degree, but...
I don't think there is to that level, though.
Oh, no.
They're just not as organized. No way.
Right.
But, here... I think the only solution is one of two things. Either A, these people have to lose... the staunchly partisan people have to lose. And I'm going to tell you something. For that to happen, too, some of their own people are going to have to vote against them.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is somehow the money has to get out.
Right.
The incentive to do that has to be removed. Because you're a candidate. You're not going to turn down thousands of dollars. You're just not. You need it.
Yeah.
So... and again, I am getting swayed to finance campaigns publicly, because if everybody got the same amount of money, then you just let the best person win.
Right.
If everybody, let me give you an example. We go back to Walz and Jensen. Okay, if Jensen had the same amount of money as Walz, he'd be winning this race.
Yeah.
Because Walz couldn't have run all those ads over the summer and buried him.
Yeah.
It would have never happened. He wouldn't have had the money to do it. So, I don't know. I mean, is that... but again, that goes against every principle I have on the First Amendment. It's not the taxpayer's job to finance a governor candidate.
Right.
And look at the Senate. That's just become nothing but a millionaire's club. I don't know. There's partisanship. But I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
This is just another... example of why we have to follow these local races so much, because two things: one, they affect us so much more than we realize, and two, these are the people that in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years are going to be running for governor, running for senator, running for those races. You find a powerful person. I mean, what was Amy Klobuchar? Wasn't she the Hennepin County attorney at one point?
Yes, she was.
Right, and used it to jump
Yeah.
right into a Senate race. Okay, so I mean, these folks will use these races to move up.
Yeah. Of course they will. That is what they've got all figured out, and that's, what we try to say. Hey, get into these lower level races and get some experience.
Yeah, I mean, learn how to do the political stuff at a smaller level, and you'll grow with it. But
Right.
I don't know. I'm so concerned about, and maybe you talk about like the Soros money and all of that, and what's going on in LA, what's going on in Chicago. I keep saying in Chicago,
Yeah.
everybody talks about the mayor, and rightly so.
Yeah.
Where's the sheriff of that?
Right.
Where's the police chief?
Well, the county attorney is Kim Fox, and she's terrible.
Okay, that's another problem too.
Yes.
But again, she might be a bigger problem than the mayor.
Yeah, she is, I think.
I mean, in some ways,
the mayor can't do much when it comes to crime.
But
Some.
yes and no. But the county attorney mayor doesn't prosecute criminals.
Right.
If they're not going to prosecute looters and blah blah blah, the mayor could do a little bit along with the council and the police chief. They can hire more police officers. They can, change the rotation. They can. There's other things they can do. If you got a prosecutor that just lets them out,
Nothing much you can do. I mean,
Yeah.
that's where, like at the beginning of the
Fox
show.
is elected.
Right. And like we were talking about at the beginning of the show, you get a guy that goes down to McDonald's, starts busting it up with a hatchet, gets arrested, back out 16 hours later on bail.
Well, yeah, it's a disaster. I don't even. Honestly, it just makes me sick. Is there a process to impeach a county attorney? Didn't DeSantis get rid of somebody down in Florida? Florida law might be different.
Every state has a different process. Like I know in New York, the governor can fire a county attorney under
Really?
certain circumstances. But I know
Do they have to break the law or?
I think they had dereliction of duty or something like that.
I'll tell you what, Lee Zeldin wins that, and you might
He's out.
You might see.
He's already said.
Yeah.
Alvin Bragg's fired if
Yeah.
he wins. But like out in California, you have to do a recall election, like the DA in San Francisco that got recalled.
Yeah. Well, if they can recall a person in San Francisco, then maybe there is hope.
Maybe.
I don't know what the law is in Minnesota, but it's got to be. I never thought I would be hoping for Mike Friedman to run for another term, but
Oh boy.
I don't think he was so terrible. That's me.
Yeah.
Not my cup of tea ideologically, and that was one of the problems. Was he was openly ideological, and I didn't like that.
Right.
And so it was kind of like, okay, dude, okay, fine. Mm-hmm. You want to be a Democrat on your free time? That's not my issue, but you
Right.
better prosecute people. So
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I mean, if this Mary Moriarty wins, I mean, we're going to be pining for the days of Mike Freeman.
exactly, no doubt about it. We're gonna wish he ran again.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes, we
yeah.
will.
I mean, just think. What does Hennepin County have? Over 1 million people in it. I mean, just think how big of a job that's bigger than a congressional district.
Absolutely it is.
So I mean, what a huge.
You got multiple within it.
Yeah, exactly. What 3, 5? I don't know if 6 is in it. I think it's just 3 and 5.
Yeah.
Because Anoka County, I think, is where 6 starts.
All of 5 is in it. Part of 3.
Most of 3.
most
I would
of
say
3, yeah.
most of 3.
Yeah, you're right, because it goes all the way out to Independence and Maple Plain.
Maple Plain is still Hennepin County?
Yeah,
Oh, God.
I believe so.
You're probably right. How far south does CD3 go now? It doesn't go down to like Chanhassen and that area, because that's not Hennepin County.
That's Carver County in Chanhassen, I believe.
I want to say that's still 3.
Yeah, Maple Plain is a city in Hennepin County.
Really?
Yeah. So says Wikipedia. I trust them on that. Not everything, but I'll trust them on that. Let's see. MNCD3. What do they say? It goes, down to Bloomington. I don't know if it's got all of Bloomington. That's a very poor map. So
I thought
can't
Bloomington
tell what highway
was.
that was. Yeah.
They got crappy maps.
Yeah, they're lousy. But yeah, I know. Just it says census.gov should be updated. It's got Carver in it. It's got Chaska. Chaska's as far south as it goes. Chanhassen, Eden Prairie, Bloomington. That's all on the south edge of 3. You got Edina, Minnetonka, Deep Haven, Woodland, Wayzata, Minnetrista, Shorewood, Excelsior, Spring Park, Mound, Minnetonka Beach, Orono, Long Lake. Did I say Medina?
No.
Medina, Corcoran, Independence, Greenfield, Maple Grove, Dayton, Champlin, Brooklyn Park, Coon Rapids, Rogers, and Hassan Township. Hassan. So, yeah.
All of us have old Dean Phillips, huh?
Yep. So everything that's south of Elk River, Otsego, that's all District 6 when you get out there, Albertville,
Buffalo,
St. Michael, all the Wright County stuff.
Yeah, Wright County.
Yeah. So, it looks like Hennepin County and a little bit of Carver County all fall within that, But yeah, I mean, so you've got 5, you've got 3. Doesn't look like you have 6, but it looks like you have 5
still
and
2
3.
congressional districts is a lot. I mean, it's a lot to cover.
Yes, it is.
Well,
you probably. I wonder if you have a little bit of 4 in there as well.
No, because
St. Anthony is in 4.
they're in
isn't it?
5. Unless it was
5?
redistricted.
Oh, maybe. But, New Brighton, though.
That's 4.
Yeah, New Brighton's 4. That's Hennepin County, isn't it? Or is that Anoka? Ah. Oh, well. Not that any of it really matters, but...
I know, but now you got me.
Yeah.
Got me all upset.
Those borders are all...
It is in Ramsey
It is
County.
in Ramsey County, New Brighton.
I thought so. I was right again.
Okay. Well, there you go.
But yeah, I want to say something too about like you talked about in a previous episode about people running unopposed. This is another issue, people running unopposed and not being held to account for what's going on in these with law enforcement and with all that. I mean, to me, that's also a big problem. I don't know. It's just...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's just the sheer number of offices at the local level, or if it's that it's not powerful enough for people and doesn't have the kind of notoriety of larger offices that cause people to run from it or to not be interested in it.
Well, I do think they're not the sexy jobs. Like I said, they're jobs that have, are supposed to have one job. You're supposed to prosecute criminals. You're supposed to enforce the law. Shouldn't be such a politically charged job. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you think they should be elected?
Ooh, that's a question.
I mean,
Yeah.
because remember, these are jobs that not just anybody can run for. It's not like city council where anybody over 23 or
Right.
over 21 can run for these positions. Police chiefs don't get elected. And,
Right.
I mean, do you think they should be elected positions?
I think a sheriff should be, because he needs to be independent. But when you get into county attorney, I don't know if you should be. Especially with the way that we see these things are swayed now.
But do you trust, the right person appointing? I mean, because then it becomes a club.
Right.
Also.
The problem is this, and I go back to my argument on, there was a group of people, a lot of them being Republicans, that were saying that we should elect the Met Council members, which is a terrible idea because nobody knows who they are. Nobody's going to do the research, and you're just going to have the same problem, the same people that are appointed winning the elections, because you're just not, nobody cares about those races enough to have them elected. Nobody's going to get passionate about a Met Council seat.
No, definitely not.
And I think with some of the problems that are happening now in our cities, people are maybe a little more passionate about a county attorney seat, but still I don't know. There's part of me that says it should be appointed, part of me that says it should be elected. Obviously, I think the more people we elect in a lot of ways, that's better, The people are making the choice, but then on the other hand, when they don't care and there's high levels of voter apathy, I'm sorry, when you're apathetic about the people running and you don't do your due diligence and you just go in and pull the lever anyways, you're doing a lot of harm, more harm than good.
But we got a lot of people doing that, without a doubt. A lot of, I remember a sheriff's race. I don't remember what year, but I can remember I voted for this guy for sheriff, or maybe I could have the race wrong because I saw a billboard. Oh, hey, I know that name.
Oh yeah.
I really, I shouldn't admit that, but it's true. It was a long time ago. It's like, yep, saw a billboard. I know that name. So, I was a low information voter. You could call me that. Without a doubt.
There's a lot of it. There's a lot of it that goes around every election cycle. And so, I don't know. What do you think is better?
Well, I don't like taking away people's right to vote for something.
Right.
But because we've seen that with I think that the answer is that we need to pay more attention to this stuff, and we need an alternative media that is going to do that also. Having said that, one abuse after another, there's abuses in government everywhere. And I'm not sure appointing somebody is going to give you the right person either. Let me give you, you're going to get probably more political if you appoint somebody.
Right.
Who does the appointing? Do you want the Hennepin County Board to appoint the sheriff?
No, but that's where it would probably come from.
Probably. And the attorney could come from the attorney general. It could come from, which you want Keith Ellison making all the appointments statewide? 87 counties?
Well, I wouldn't.
Of course, again, I believe the attorney general shouldn't be Republican or Democrat either.
Right.
They have a simple job too. It's not partisan. Secretary of State, same thing. Ensure fair and what does that have to do with your party?
It doesn't have anything to do with it.
State auditor? Why are these races partisan?
I would say Secretary of State as well should not be a partisan race.
I don't get it. So, But yet, is it better that it's out in the open partisan or that it's behind the scenes partisan? It's because let's say you still had Jim Schultz running against Keith Ellison. Well,
Okay.
they're going to work with their parties behind the scenes. Is that better than knowing them out front and on the ballot? I say that's better because having the D and the R there influences people.
Yeah, it does.
And if it said no party there, I think you'd have the campaigns would be much, much different.
Yeah. I would even argue to a point that probably for state races and federal races, the same thing would be better. I mean, George Washington is the one who said, don't get into political parties. It will be the downfall of the country. I'm paraphrasing, but
Right.
yeah.
Washington's farewell address, one
Yeah.
of the greatest pieces of written thing that nobody's ever read. Nobody knows anything about it, but if you want to see a guy who could foresee the future
Yeah.
and foresee problems 200 years after he said them, I think George Washington might be one of the best. Him and Abe Lincoln might be the two that stick out in my head as people who really were farsighted in their thinking. So just stinky. It'll just stink everywhere. Those things stinks. Why is this, Jay? Can I ask you a dumb question?
Sure.
Why is politics in my blood? Why is it? Why is it I can't take it out?
Well, it's competitive, you and I are competitive people. And being in the roles that we're in, we want to win. We don't like losing. I don't think we like living under certain circumstances. And if there's a way that we can beat people into submission, I mean, figuratively, not literally, and find people to run and that might actually make a positive change. I don't know. We care. We care about society. We care about others. And
I hate it. I hate caring.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts that I care.
It's weird because there's two sides of it. There's caring about it, and then there's also being an ideologue to the point where you want power, and you will do anything to get that power, and you will push crazy ideas.
Well, I'm gonna say yes to that, but I'm gonna add something to it.
Yeah.
When you are in a race, you have to be in it to win it.
Oh yeah, you can't have to it.
But in life, if your whole life is about getting power and you're never gonna get fulfilled.
Oh no,
It's
never enough.
Yeah, it's kind of like nothing's ever enough.
Yeah.
So
It's why
that's
when
your
you're Nancy
reason.
Pelosi and you're 170 years old, you're still trying to stay in control.
Yeah, you have nothing else. Doesn't she have something to knit or cookies to bake or something? I mean, there's just
Ice cream to eat out of her
whole life is
$12,000 fridge.
Yeah, I mean, her whole life is controlling others, and you don't want to give that up. We went through this with Lyndon Carlson over here,
Oh yeah.
who's got a walker, and hangs on and hangs on and hangs on, all for power. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, it's you're not going to be self-fulfilled if that's your motive. But
Right.
But folks, I'm going to tell you something. Wherever you live, you have got to go through your city council, your school board candidates, your county candidates, and see what they're all about.
Yeah.
And don't just read their little fluffy stuff on their website that makes them look nice. You've got to do independent things.
Where are they getting donations from? Who are they aligning themselves with? You got to know these things.
Yeah, look at who are they retweeting?
Right. Yeah.
It's a big one.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know. I hate to say I'm a total pessimist, but
Yeah.
actually I don't hate to say it because I say it every show.
I'm more of an optimist, but
You got problems, Jay.
yeah, probably.
And I'll tell you something. I don't know that I've ever been more of a pessimist, just generally speaking, than I am right now. It's kind of a gross feeling, to be honest. You know, like it's like everything I hear that's bad, I just assume it's 10 times worse than it is.
Yeah.
I just make that assumption. Well, I know it's hard, Jay, but you got to say something inspiring here.
Oh boy.
I know I depressed everybody. I know talking about all this stuff just probably made everybody angry, made everybody mad, made everybody cry. I don't know. We didn't solve anything today, but hopefully we gave you something to chew on, and hopefully you do your own research and all that. But Jay, once again, styling and profiling, jet flying, limousine riding, wheeling dealing son of a gun. Jason, Bradley, give us some words. Give us something here.
Oh, do I have a surprise for you, Andrew? I've been holding off.
We got another video that got removed on YouTube?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, you're kidding.
Like an umbrella with a hole in it. That's the name of it.
Yeah.
So everybody should go out and stream the heck out of that and the price of free speech.
What?
I still can't believe that got blocked.
What was the umbrella with a hole in it about? I don't remember.
We pretty much ranted and raved about all the COVID stuff for for a while.
Was that
it was actually like an episode or two before the other one that got blocked and removed. The price of free speech.
Wow.
Yeah. Unbelievable. I know the description for the podcast. I went back and read it and said something about disease-infused rags strapped across your face. We might have been a little.
But did they give you? Do they give you a reason? Do they give you a statement?
Medical misinformation.
Medical misinformation.
Yeah, medical misinformation.
F you, YouTube. Up yours.
Medical misinformation. Even though now they probably say all the same stuff. So yeah, I if everybody wouldn't mind going out and finding those couple and just episode 241, the price of free speech, and 238, like an umbrella with a hole in it. Passing those around just because I want to shove it in YouTube's face. I don't see what the problem is. YouTube.
Go screw yourself.
Oh, yes. So episode 238,
well, that's
episode 241.
That's your best sign-off sermon yet. And, like I told you on my show, I got those three, because Spotify is bent but not broke
right.
for the mob. What they do is they label your shows. They put a COVID tag on them.
Right.
And the funny thing was, the show I did with Eric Mortensen, where we talked about impeaching walls over COVID, did not get one. But my show with Harmless Ann Bauer and my show with Kevin Roche and the one I did with Sam Deal from the kids, they all got COVID tags on them.
Oh, of course they did.
That I don't want to say, they stopped short of removing it. They stopped short of calling it, quote, misinformation, but putting the little naughty Mr. Yuck sticker on there.
Right.
Kind of a backdoor way of doing that. My opinion, anyway.
Yeah, it kind of is. But, when you put a sticker on it like that, that'll just make the kids want to listen to it more, right?
Maybe. It's in a nice bright blue color, too. So.
Yeah. But, I mean, this is what we're facing these days, and I don't think it's just limited to COVID information. It's limited to other types of things.
Climate change.
Yeah, climate change, any kind of misinformation they want to censor. and it's not misinformation, but anything that they want to censor, they will call misinformation, and they are going to try to take away your First Amendment rights to say it. We can no longer allow that. We must speak out even more. We must pass these things around even more. We must listen to and speak these things out even more, because when we do, then we can put a stop to YouTube. It doesn't matter. You fine. You want to take care of that? Guess what? Well, maybe we'll pop up on Rumble. Well, maybe we'll pop up somewhere else. Whatever. But at some point, people will see that you are just an empty suit. You're someone who doesn't have what it takes to be able to fight for the things that matter. You're just another government lackey. I guess this will end up on YouTube, and hopefully that won't get censored. But
YouTube sucks.
We are in dire straits here, and the only way to make sure that we keep our First Amendment rights intact are to use them. If we decide that we're not going to use them, and we're going to allow people to shut us up, or we're just going to hide and we're not going to talk, you know what? Eventually we will lose our First Amendment rights, and that's just the way it's going to be. Unless we decide to speak out and we decide that we've had enough and we refuse to allow those people that come after our freedom of speech to do what they're doing, it's going to be too late sooner or later. So the time has come to speak out. The time has come to fight back. To if they shut you down, sue them. If they try to take away your voice, go to the local paper. Put flyers up around town. Do whatever you have to do. If you gotta print 1,000 stickers and create your own website, and so that you can tell your story, then you do it. But you don't let the enemy of free speech come and take away your free speech. You don't stay silent. There is no victory in that, and you will end up a slave. So, we have to stand. There's nothing left for us to do. And if we don't form some clear boundaries and push back against darkness, push back against the boundaries of darkness, we are in for real trouble. So we need your help. We need you to be with us in spirit. We need you to be with us in body. The time has come for us to put a standard up against an invading force. And no, I'm not talking about our southern border. I'm talking about everything that is coming to us from these political elites, whether they come from the left or the right, whether they're putting all these crazy ideas out there, or they're just remaining silent. No, we need to rise up, because if we stay silent, we're the forgotten man, and we need to be remembered. We need to be seen. We need to be heard. Forgotten no more. There are more of us than they think, and we can make a difference. You looking for how to make a difference? Let's talk. COMMsolutionsMN@gmail.com. That is COMMsolutionsMN@gmail.com, and we will stand with you. And we will come together, and we will make a change. I can promise you that. It doesn't take many of us, but we've got to be engaged, and we've got to be strong, and we've got to be courageous, and we've got to be together. That's how we do this. All right. Till next week. We love you, Minnesota. But now it's your turn to get to work.